What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lore Reloaded. I am your wondrous host, Lore from the Lore Reloaded. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hey, if you're watching this video on demand, you know exactly what's about to happen. I'm going to throw a couple of things out to you. Don't forget to check me at twitter.com/Lore Reloaded. Best way to keep up with the channel if anything happens here or on Twitch. That's where I'm going to be talking about stuff. Plus, I get into everything sci-fi, everything lore, and you can ask me things even outside of that, whatever you want to talk about. And, of course, if you want to hang out with me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Lore Reloaded, I generally try to play every night, including fleet operations for Star Trek Online, so I hope everybody's going to be there to hang out. And let's say hi to a couple people. We got Anthony Dukes in the house. Always a party when Anthony Dukes comes by. John Riker, of course. Nate Watson. Nate, hope you're doing well today. Nate's idea. Okay, here's my idea. Annie Lennox plays an Andorian captain and Tina Turner is the tactical officer. Done. Instant Emmy. Instant. Of course, we got Admiral Murphy, one of the best researchers I've ever seen. Y'all should check out his channel. Does some interesting stuff with the drunken peasants. I watched all of his documentaries on that. We got Fancy Teeth, the one and only editor. Dude does excellent job editing videos. You guys should check him out as well. Proxima Centauri, an update of Deep Space Nine, a show that takes place on a space station on the Klingon border. I love Klingon politics, though, when it comes to wanting what kind of video we're going to be talking today. 14K Liam, Captain George, of course. And let's just get into it. Now, who only said they could be here for 30 minutes? Emperor 15 only has 30 minutes. Whatever you have in your life, cancel. If you can't, you have to be here completely 100% the entire time. Cancel your life. What's going on, Michael Sue? Leon Lee. All right, it's a party, guys. We got Leon Lee. So let's just jump into it. Let's talk about the Geek Breakdown. Let's write a quote-unquote good Star Trek series. I'm going to throw this out here because and we've talked about this for quite a while. And honestly, one of the reasons I'm doing this is because today I had 2 videos go up. I talked about my interpretation of Solo from someone who hasn't seen it and doesn't want to see it. And then I did a series that was too honest. Or not too honest, but it came off too real. So I just want to do another video, just have some fun. Let's talk about rewriting or writing a good Trek series. And here's my opinion on it. Here's what I think would be good. Post-Dominion War, and I've talked about this before, post-Dominion War, post the destruction of Romulus, and a series called Star Trek Retribution, let's say. Star Trek Retribution. And basically, it discusses where you have 30% to half of the Federation wanting to secede from Starfleet after the devastation that happened from the Dominion, and a discussion between what should the heart of the Federation be and what should it return to. So, that would be my idea. And I mean, I may actually do the pitch in a video format and expand it, but I'm curious. We all talk about how horrible Star Trek Discovery is. Even we talk about how we don't like the new Star Wars stuff. Let's write down what we do want to write. Let's give our ideas. So what do you guys think? What would we do? What would you like to see? Do you like my idea? Do you want to expand on that? Where should we go with it? Super Gamer Freak 18. I say let's go for a calm show that expands on Trek lore with an actual attempt at making good writing, and at most just gets you to ask questions. Basically a series between the tones of TNG and Deep Space Nine. An interesting thing with that you could do is maybe have the ship, and again, the USS Retribution and Akira class, because why not? Maybe they are tasked with doing both scientific study and patrolling in the Gamma Quadrant. And somehow the defeat of the Alpha Quadrant got back to the civilizations in the Gamma Quadrant, and now you have exploration because it's the Gamma Quadrant, and dealing with the internal strifes of the Dominion, which would cause a pretty big would be a big issue too. So I mean, we don't even have to go with a Starfleet or Federation civil war. A lot of people don't like that for some reason. But you know, so that's an idea too. Yamada Jishu. Well, Star Trek has always been character-driven. I think first and foremost, the main characters should be the focus. Sure, but what would we do with these main characters? Where are they going? Talk to me about it. Dat Fish Boy talking about going back to my Civil War, Federation Civil War idea. Sounds like a good idea, perhaps from the point of view of a non-human species. That would be a little tricky on TV. I'm not against it, but you'd have to play it pretty even. You'd have to be very careful with it, because one of the issues that comes up with that is the reason why we have humans is because a human audience watches it. So you have to be able to connect in that way. So I don't think you could do like a Vulcan ship or anything like that, but maybe Beta Z or it doesn't even have to be Federation. It could be like Orion or something like that as well, but it'd have to be close to humanity, I think, for it to stay online. Common Sense America. So are you talking a civil war within the Federation? Don't see a chunk of it leaving without a fight. Yeah, and that would be the entire point of the conversation or the show. So you would have like the Vulcans or Beta Z or something like that wanting to secede. And then, of course, who would ever want to leave Paradise? And so now we're discussing why they're wanting to secede, what's going on, should they be allowed to, should there be military intervention, how does this work? Especially if you consider one of the founding planets. I mean, I say this all the time, but it's true. They've really always wanted to have Vulcan secede. So what if Vulcan secede? Or what if Andoria seceded? Or hell, I don't think they do this, but what if Earth wanted to secede? How would that work? Ora Takawa's Tinga, who has sent me some stuff I need to do. He sent some interesting ideas when it comes to fleet layouts that I think we're going to do at some point. A Star Trek where Starfleet sends an actual exploratory expedition into the Delta Quadrant, and we see a ship or fleet that have to deal with in Voyager's wake. Now, that could be an interesting idea. How fun would that be? So, the Federation figures out how to do Slipstream, or something like that. And so you send an expedition into the Delta Quadrant, and then we can explore everything that happened with Voyager. We could explore if the Borg are still there, what's going on with that. Yeah, that could be interesting. Daniel Schott, do Federation planets have their own home guard? Just thinking of the fleet battles. It's never specifically defined. This came up a couple of months ago. From the research I've done and the research I've looked into and looking at the different resources, it would appear that there is like a, I don't want to say Coast Guard, but a militia that exists for most planets. That's where we see the original ships from. So Vulcan still has their own ships. Andoria still has their own ships. It's just when it comes to making military ships, those are the Starfleet ships we see. So they do have their own militia at a local level. Admiral Murphy, there was a great Star Trek Online Foundry mission about Teller leaving the Federation because of Dominion war crimes. Yeah, something like that might be interesting. Binster, what I would like is an entirely new exploration. Let's say the Federation creates a wormhole into another galaxy. Everything would be new. That would be interesting, I think. That would be something possible to explore. But honestly, if they tried to go outside of the galaxy, I don't know. That doesn't work for me. I don't think that would be good Trek. For me. That doesn't mean it couldn't be done. It couldn't be done well. I don't like the idea of that. I'm not sure why either. That makes it more fantastical to me than science fiction, if that makes sense. But it may be good. But that's just off the cuff thinking. Salil Bhatnagar. In my school, we had to write a writer's journal. Mine is Star Trek Delta Rising. The USS Explorer went through the Genolian Dinosphere and explored fixed Voyager's mistakes and continuity goals. What? Yeah, I mean, again, an exploration of a previous series would be intriguing, too. What kind of starring characters would you want to see? Asks Michael Leith. So, I'm not tied to necessarily any specific characters at any point. One thing I would say is I'd like to see a mix of TNG pacifism explorers. I would like to see DS9 militaristic characters so that they can bump heads and have good conversations. And the introduction of Section 31. The way I'd bring in Section 31 there's a couple interesting ways to think that. Maybe a Section 31 agent went rogue and is behind some of the secessions, thinking that Starfleet has grown too weak, and so now we need to rebuild it. Or Section 31 coming in because there's an outside influence. I think there could be some very interesting conversations there. Your Dat Fish Boy, your cat is very cute. Well, thank you. He prides himself on that. Azal Mapping. Let's continue with making more prequels until we reach current day. Huh? What? No one? No one wants to do that? Would you like a series based on Q and or the Borg origins? No, I wouldn't want a series that's based on the Q. I wouldn't mind a series perhaps that investigated the Q. Or had Q as a heavy influence. That might be interesting. And not Voyager heavy influence, TNG heavily influence. Emperor 15, let's beef up the Fed's rivals. Romulans discovering subspace corridors for faster travel, Dominion wanting revenge for being poisoned, and the scariest Borg ships with cloaking. You'd have to be very careful. And I don't know that there's a good way to do this, because it may go the Voyager route, which just absolutely destroyed the Borg, but a Borg Federation war could be intriguing, especially after Voyager. They'd be so weak that the Federation would have a chance of actually defeating them. So a Borg Federation war could be very interesting. Jeremy Brown, how about a time ship from the 29th century called the USS Chainway? It's trapped in the 24th century and must repeatedly break the Temporal Prime Directive. Travis, who is, by the way, guys, look at Travis. Look how cool he is. He's got a little green to his name. That's because he is a sponsor. You can become a sponsor, too, by hitting the sponsor button. It really helps me out. Travis says, I'm here in the bathroom at work. Shut up and take my like. I will shut up and take your like. Now going back to Jeremy Brown. Talking about the 24th century and repeatedly breaking. Something that might be interesting, and I think it would get old, but what if you did have a temporal ship and it got stuck in the 24th century? And to get out of it, it had to break some kind of fissure or something. And the entire first season, or even the series, is it constantly failing and having a reset. Now, I could see that getting old real quick, and it has a quantum leap feel to it. But that could be an interesting thing. You just have to figure out how to not make it old. By the way, people 72 watching, only 30 likes and 2 dislikes. The hell? Everybody like or dislike it. I don't care which one you do. And if you don't do that, you're scared. It's exactly what you are. Super Comey, I'd like a series with a ship that specializes in environmental, political, whatever issues with Federation planets. Let's focus on Federation races. So maybe the Federation Diplomatic Corps. But so when you put this together, though, you got to think about longevity and the stories you can tell, right? How could you expand, and how many stories could you tell with the Federation Diplomatic Corps? And if you're looking at a focus on a species, how do you keep that new? I don't know. Now, Jonum, that's a good idea. What about the Crinum? Now, yeah, how interesting would that be? So, here's what you could do. You have a ship, whatever ship, and this is just a normal series. And all of a sudden, this ship that they haven't seen before comes out of subspace or comes out of a corridor, and they're not sure who it is, and they run it through the computer, and the tactical officer says, "Hey, it looks like we had a report on Voyager from the Voyager excursions. It looks like this is a Crinum ship. We've never seen them in the Alpha Quadrant before." And so the Crinum starts attacking, and maybe this was a fleet. Maybe the ship was a part of a fleet. It hits two Starfleet ships, and they're instantly gone, right? And it comes down, it bears down, and it's about to hit the hero ship. And all of a sudden, a temporal ship appears right in front of it, takes the shot, is damaged but isn't destroyed, and helps that ship get away. And then the first season is fighting the Crinum, because the Crinum have gone to war with the Federation because of whatever, tech, yada yada, plot convenience. That could be interesting. The Red Duke Eminus, hey, first time catching a stream live. Maybe a series exploring the Romulan War would be a good one. That's not a bad idea. I don't hate that. There's actually a fan fiction that's near me, and man, we were in contact, and then S hit the fan personally. I haven't gotten back to him. He probably hates me now, but there's a fan fiction about the Romulan War, which I think is going to be great, and hopefully I can get back in touch and he doesn't write me off. Trip, the trippy one. How about a show about the Maquis, or one that has some of the lesser known species in Star Trek? We've talked about this before. I think it'd be interesting, but the series has to be something people would watch, right? And so if you're not using humans, that's pretty hard to do. And so, yes, but you'd have to work on it. With the Maquis, that could be intriguing. I'm not the hugest fan of the era Enterprise is in, but I think that could be curious. Kenneth Hildebrand becoming a lore master. Thank you so much. The Confederacy of Planets versus the United Federation of Planets. Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool. I'd have to endure northern and western populations within the U.S. Trying to talk how bad they are, because, it's okay for you to be racist as long as you're not in the South, because, you just blame all your problems on the South. Nate Watson, idea. Darwin stations genetically engineered people revolt and take over the outlier system. General engineering educated people. Yes. Yamadato Jishi, welcome to becoming a lore master. Civil War, kind of like Star Trek Online. How would you write the Romulans post-Dominion War? Nope, I'm sorry, I got mixed up. Revolt in the outlier systems. People start defecting, and new rogue states. So basically what Nate is saying is you have enhanced people, and then so we have secondary citizens, because they're put up because they're afraid of Khan. And so now we have this conversation on, is it okay to have genetic people, and then this war, and maybe it could be reminiscent. So here's an interesting idea. So we take that idea. So you have a group of genetically engineered people, and they are treated as secondary citizens. They're not allowed to be in Starfleet, and they're pretty oppressed. So they start rebelling. They take over outlying colonies, like you said. And so now you have this war, and people are referring to this as like what happened with Khan, and everybody is concerned, oh no, Khan has returned, the eugenics wars are back on. When really, these people just want their own state. They just want to live. And so now you have a bad guy that isn't necessarily a bad guy, and you got a ship that, who are they going to choose? Are they going to side with Starfleet, or are they going to go with the augments? Darren Wagner, we're talking about what shows we would write if we were doing this. And we're also talking about how 91 people are watching and only 51 thumbs up. What's up with that? I want at least 43 thumbs down. At least. We could have the story set in the era of the Wrath of Khan or the Enterprise B. They could explore the Beta Quadrant and see how the politics and society. I gotta be honest, I'm done with prequels. I really am. It's horrible to say, and I can understand that there's still stories to tell, but I am so done with prequels. Uh, I don't see them ever being done well, and it took a long time for Enterprise to even be done well, right? Uh, Trip the trippy one. I don't mean no humans, but an Andorian medical officer, for example. We know Andorians are almost warriors, but no doctors, nurses, paramedics. Yeah, I mean, definitely now that we have the technology, we should see more diverse crew. Um, I, I, I think that. So there was one thing the actor of Lorca said, and I don't watch a lot of the outside of the shows because it just angers me and it's going to make me not be able to break down a show well because of how political they are. But he said something akin to during that time you would see, I think he may have said white males, but maybe, hopefully only humans, that humans would not be the most. They wouldn't be so consistent at this time that you'd see a lot of diversity. And I think that that stands true. The only reason we never saw it beforehand was because it was expensive and it was due to technical issues and things like that. Any new show, I'm not against having a lot of different aliens and things, especially post Dominion War. I think you do have a. I think you do have a good argument for why humans were mostly in charge of the ships and things at the beginning, during the Genesis, during Discovery, and even the original series. But as it moved on, there would be more diversity. Anthony Dukes helping out the channel, becoming the super chat hero of the lore for the moment. This is how I make my bread. This is how I keep my kids fed, guys. Thank you so much. Lore wants a Neelix origin story. No. No, unless it's his pain, unless it's talking about how much he suffered, I'm not as interested in a Neelix origin story. Yamato Jishu, the series I've been working on, focuses on the beginnings of quantum slipstream drive in the Federation, following a ship that has the first working prototype. That could be interesting from an exploration standpoint. At Lore Reloaded, ship of Star Trek ground troop, first responders, fighting one week, handling disease the next, political intrigue. After an interesting one that I would like to see is following Starfleet security. So post Dominion War, maybe Starfleet security gets their own Marine branch like they need, and we have a show on that. Goes completely against what Roddenberry would have ever wanted, but how interesting would that be, right? A third of scientists makes a wormhole to a vastly different universe or galaxy and have season based on the interactions with it and its completely alien life and technology. Yeah, Emperor, I don't know if you brought that up or not, Emperor. I'm not against it. I don't know. That seems, again, it seems too fantastical to go outside of the alpha, beta, gamma, or delta quadrants, honestly. And I'm not completely sure why. It just seems somewhat fantastical to me and not science fiction. The Red Duke Arminus. I get tired of the episode style series based on a ship after the 5th time it was done. Maybe something like DS9, where the main characters are on a planet or a station again. Yeah, the only problem with that is that you have to have everything come to the station. They even got the Defiant because they wanted to expand, right? By the way, guys, I don't know if you know or not, but anytime you do like super chats or anything like that, their stuff actually goes into this cup and it fills the cup up, which I think is pretty cool. Oh, by the way, animations. I gotta get on the animation. We can play any animations you guys want me to. How about taking influence from Star Wars, in particular taking it from the Yuuzhan Vong War story, have an extra galactic species invade the Star Trek galaxy? Instead of that, why not this? A Voth Federation war. A Voth Federation. Consider that. What if the Voth invaded? What if, because there's this political, religious aspect and things like that. What if the Voth invaded the Federation? The Federation drastically outmatched by them, and they all have to pull together. How interesting would that be? Trek series entirely from the Ferengi perspective. During the Dominion War, that could be interesting. The Dominion War, when... Oh, hold on. I gotta do Palpatine.
I am the Senate.
I'll tell you what. Let's do an Anakin, too.
I hate them!
Yep. And a Luke.
No. It's not true. That's impossible!
That Luke is long. Alright, I mean, what, I think during the Dominion War, Ferengi could be interesting, but you would need to couch it, I guess. You'd need to find a way to do it and not be TNG Ferengi. I don't know. The Federation experiment with Warp 10 on a space station, and they get flung across the galaxy and start a war with an unknown species. Yeah. Trip the Trippy One, an animation of Anti-Trekker being hit by a phaser set to 16. Well, that's what I'll do after in a couple months. What do you think of the Oberth class? Yeah, the Anakin gif, exactly. By the way, guys, just so you know, if you want to help out the channel, you can always consider going to Patreon, patreon.com/Lore Reloaded. I want to take the Lore Reload to the next level. I'm only going to be able to do that with your guys' help using Patreon. Just something to consider. A ship gets trapped in pre-human times. They meet ancient civilizations, and every time they move forward, they meet new civilizations, 100 to 1,000 years at a time. But, so, I don't hate that Azov mapping, but let me ask you that. Is that Star Trek? Is that Trek when you think about it? Is that really what Star Trek is? Because you have to consider the mythos and what Star Trek is. It's about, in theory, it's about a happier future. It's about evolved humans. It's about exploration. It's about meeting new life. And so does that meet the goals? Now, and one thing we could do is, I forget, but in the original series, that rock formation that allows you to go and watch the future and things like that and go into the past. Something with that could be intriguing too. Or a return of the Organians. I remember, I think it was Starfleet Academy or Starfleet Command Part 2, where you're fighting the Klingons. And the Organians return, but it's kind of, they're very vague about it. It could be interesting to have the return of the Organians. And for whatever reason, they are trying to warn you, but can't. They're trying to give you some form of message about an incoming doom. And maybe the Federation, maybe we go Star Trek Online, maybe we have another Klingon Federation war, and the Organians are coming to stop you. And they're saying that there's this bigger threat coming, and then you have the Voth appear. Star Trek Online, for the criticisms, some of the valid criticisms that you can give it, I do think that the story of a Klingon Federation war with other interesting things coming could be a good story. Starfleet Command Volume 2 Empires at War, Josh Street. Yeah, I actually love that game. I love the heck out of that game. How about a Trek set after the Dominion War and the crew is learning to adjust back to not being soldiers, expanding on the Chief O'Brien fallout from the Cardassian fleet? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we actually started with, Super Comey. That would be interesting to see the fight for the soul of the Federation between being a military and being an exploration and having them bump heads. David Deister, becoming Super Chat Hero of the Lore. Thank you so much. I'd like to see a Trek show during the time of Enterprise B and Enterprise C and connected the gap between Undiscovered Country and the Next Generation. Now, an interesting thing to take into that is yesterday's Enterprise. Because we know even after the events of Undiscovered Country, there was still a lot of issues, still a lot of combat, still tensions that were high, and even a second, story, even a second agreement had to be done. And let me hold that thought. Power 543 Fan Films. Hey, Lore, Sam Cockings here. The one, the only Samuel Cockings, who is rocking it out. Good to see you, buddy. I hope you sleep well. You and me got to chat soon. I'll hit you up on Skype. But going back to that, so it would be interesting to follow the Enterprise C specifically, to see them go up against the Klingons, and even see the last battle where the Enterprise C was destroyed. I forget what planet it was at or what station, but that the last season or the last episode could be that battle. And here's another thing. Pull it into TNG. So the last season, the last couple of episodes, it's that battle. So you have 2 episodes to the end, right? And these are the last 2 episodes of the series. And so they get the distress call from Naranda 3. Yeah, they get to the distress call from Naranda 3. And they go to Naranda 3. And the first episode is them fighting, and then they go into the rift. Nate Watson hitting it into the park, helping out the channel. I'll get to you in just a second. So they go into the rift, and you see TNG footage, but it's now from their side. I don't know if you could make that interesting, but that would be kind of cool if... talk to you later, Emperor 13. Or Emperor 15, sorry. That would be kind of cool. So you see that entire thing happen from their side, and you use clips from TNG. And then they go back through the rift, and the last episode is them fighting and them defeating or losing, obviously, but them taking out as many of the Romulans that they can. That could be a really interesting story. What if Klingon elitists kill Martok? The Klingons execute the Council for its elitism and out-of-touch nature, and the Klingon national government falls apart. So, that... I mean, I would hate to see Martok killed, just because it's such an interesting... By the way, thank you, Nate Watson, if I didn't thank you. If you want me to play an animation, let me know. I'll play an animation. Talk to you later, Joshua Stovall. I'd hate to see Martok just killed. I was about to say destroyed. I'd hate to see Martok killed. But that is an interesting... possibility. And what would happen from a destabilized Klingon Empire? I could see the Romulans taking advantage of that. The Klingons' houses would go back to war and also attack the Federation. Maybe even go after the Cardassians again. Maybe the House of Duras is restored or becomes powerful again. And how curious would that be? Has anyone, Micah Leith, has anyone seen Renegades? I have, in fact, seen Renegades. I hate that they stopped being Star Trek. I thought Renegades was excellent. That happens in Star Trek Online. Martok is killed and leads to the increased tension between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. Well, that's crap. They shouldn't kill Martok. Can we just have an internal strife with Section 31 trying to militarize the Federation? The Federation pulls everyone else trying to dogmatically hold themselves together. I don't look at Section 31 like that. I don't think Section 31 would cause that kind of discord. However, what I think would be interesting is to have a section of Section 31, have a part of Section 31 go rogue. And so and then you have Section 31 and a crew fighting the rogue Section 31. Terror of Death, again, becoming a hero of the lore. Thank you so much. How about a Star Trek anthology series? Well, why don't you expand on that for me? When you say an anthology series, what exactly would you want to it? So, are you talking about a series where we don't focus on one ship, but it's just like every couple of episodes is just a different section, different part of the Federation of Starfleet? That could be interesting. But I guess my only concern or my only issue with that would be that people wouldn't really be able to connect with the characters, and if they can't do that, it's not going to stay that long, you know? 103 people watching, only 67 likes. What's going on, people? Come on, like it. Do it. You know what?
Do it!
Like it.
Just do it!
Do it. Good luck getting Lore to see the Samuel at Power 5-3. Did he say something? Oh, Power 543 fan films. How about the USS Ambassador, the original Andrew Probert version? A series of miniseries with that. How cool is that design, and how elegant and how modern looking, actually? I'd have to look more into that before I could speak completely intelligently on that, but that could be interesting. You know what you need to do, Samuel, CBS just needs to go ahead and hire you. They need to stop, everybody just needs to stop, pretending like this isn't going to happen. Samuel Cockings needs to become the head of the Star Trek division and basically make Star Trek great again, which is what Samuel would do. Can I dislike because of Samuel? You can, in fact, dislike. Yes. Yeah, kind of like Captain George is saying, the chat generally goes too fast in order for me to comment or anything. I never would have even seen that if Captain George hadn't said something. Janeway's collapse with Borg conduit network borked subspace to the point where warp and subspace comms fail. 2 centuries later, a signal from a lost colony is received. Maybe, but here's another idea for that. So we see the collapse of the network, and for all intents and purposes, the collapse is thought to be total. The Borg are gone. There is no way. There is absolutely no way that the Borg survived, and that's just the thought. That's just common knowledge. And then all of a sudden, we have a ship come across a Borg conduit that is still active. But that Borg conduit has destroyed Borg around it. So there's just ships and wreckage and everything. And so where do we go with that? Where does this conduit go? Why are the Borg destroyed? What's happening here? That could be intriguing, especially since the Borg were thought gone or destroyed. Unknown User, Klingon Academy, the series. That could be a cool short story, short film. I really like the Klingon Academy, so I wouldn't actually be against that. That could be a good short story. The Borg are never gone, says Anthony Dukes. That is absolutely true. They're like Hydra. That seems more like it's a rip on the Destiny novels, says Rick Van Burns. Maybe. Sith Sci-Fi. Did you like Solo, a Star Wars story? I have not seen it. I did do a... What's up, buddy? He got mad because I moved. I did do a... live stream talking about what I've seen and my opinions on it. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. But I haven't seen it yet. From everything I've read, and everything I've seen, I'm not the biggest fan of it. But I'll say this. Eckhart's Ladder, who is a big friend of the channel, praises it. And I may go see it just because he swears by it. He's not saying it's the best thing ever. Not like Campia levels of praise. But he does highly suggest it. The Terror of Death helping out the channel for $5, becoming the current Super Chat hero of the lore. Something like Star Wars, The Clone Wars set in the Dominion War, but your idea is really good as well. So when you say something like Star Wars, The Clone Wars set in the Dominion War, what do you mean? Walk me through that. I'd be interested. What specifically Clone Wars are we trying to put together with that? Hey, Laura, just got back from a little Age of Mythology session. Pretty good real-time strategy. I think I've seen that before. How have you been? I'm doing fine, buddy. Hope you're doing well, too. Pre-Enterprise series, based on the times before the Federation existed, the tough times on Earth that led to the Federation being created, and how it changed life on Earth. We have a series on that already. It's called Enterprise, in fact. Jay Wiggs, I got muted. You weren't muted by me, buddy. I'm not sure how you were muted. Was not by me. Someone already brought it up. And as I said, there's a fan fiction movie, and I really got to reach out to that guy. I hope he doesn't hate me. There's a fan fiction movie called... I forget what it's called. But it's based on the Romulan Wars. In fact... our boy Samuel Cockings has helped out with it, and it looks amazing because the work he's doing on it, based on the Dominion or based on the Romulan War, and that would be a really interesting. If you could get CBS and Paramount to do a full-on Romulan War, that would be a prequel I would want to see. How did I get Spot Data's cat? I stole him. How about a series based completely in the alternate universe, in the Terran Empire, or the Mirror Universe? A lot of people have been bringing this up. I'm actually not against the Terran Empire storyline. And I think that if you did Terran Empire, you could even go the CBS route, which have it online, or do it in a way where you don't have to worry about normal conventions. The Terran Empire, you would see more cursing. You'd see more of what we see in Discovery. And I think that could be interesting. And I wouldn't hate it as much. Because again, it's the Terran Empire. Pick up where Axanar left off. New sponsor in the house. Raw666 helping out. Hey guys, just so you know, if you ever wanted to, you can become a sponsor. Basically, you get all kinds of cool stuff. Your name comes up in green, and you can now use a special little emoticon. So if you go to the emoticons, Raw666, you can now do this, and other people can't. I also have new emoticons coming out. I forgot what. Terran Empire would be interesting. Terran Empire would be more like Discovery, and I'd be interested to see that. Yamato Jisho helping out, becoming a hero of the lore, and helping for the lore goal of the night. Thank you so much. Let's see. A concept that I really like is the idea of the Romulan Republic. After the destruction of Romulus, the surviving civilians rebel against the Empire. Could be a mirror for the Federation separatists. So, Star Trek Online is definitely a soft canon, which means, and they didn't come up with the term, but they're the first ones I've ever heard say it. Basically, if it doesn't happen on TV, it's considered canon, but you could say that about the books too. I like Star Trek Online. I just think soft canon is that said, the Romulan Republic is a good idea, and that could be an interesting series overall. And I'd like that story arc. I wouldn't actually mind if they did that story arc I wouldn't actually mind if they did that story arc in a television series type thing. And, oh, whoops, I'm so sorry, Captain George. I didn't mean to put you in timeout for 300 seconds. You did the pre-show joke that isn't getting old at all. Sorry, buddy. Oh, no. Let's see. How about a Dominion War series focused on a small, underpowered Fed ship with a rather small crew? Less heroism, more survival, or one of the Cardassian protagonists before their Dominion alliance. How about, let me read that again. How about a Dominion War series focused on a small, underpowered Federation ship with a rather small crew? Yeah, I think that I would love to see a Dominion War series that isn't Deep Space Nine, and to see different points of the war and different points of the battles. A lot of people don't go for that. I think it would be really interesting, really intriguing. To see, I love stories like that where you have a solid event and then you see it from a different side. I think that'd be very interesting. Anti-Trekker, why are you picking on Captain George? Because I can't pick on you because I live closer to you. And so I can't ban you for 300 seconds. Plus, I've done it to Captain George before, and I know he can take a joke. So, I know he knows I'm messing with him. Also, the next time he goes live and I come on, he's going to do it to me. I know I got it coming. Michael Leith, Anti-Trekker is the consolation show. We all know you run the room. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Also, side note, I'm having my boyfriend over in a few days, 5 days to be more accurate, and yes, okay. I'd like to politely ask you not to attack me for that, Sinbad, okay? Well, I don't think anybody would attack you for it, and if they did, let me know, and they'll get banned. Not a joke ban like I did to Captain George. I'll sincerely ban someone for that. That's cool, your boyfriend's coming over. Let's see, the graphics look great. Any timeline on release? A few years out. Oh, you're not talking to me. Nate Watson! Here's the Romulans' origins from the Romulan view. Here's the Romulans' origins from the Romulan view. An extremist religious order took over their home world. They were forced to flee and become nomads, but eventually found a new home. Watchable. I don't know. I don't know if that's watchable or not, because I don't think that an audience would really watch a Romulan series. I don't think they'd watch a Vulcan series. I know a lot of people want to see a Klingon series. I don't think an audience would watch a Klingon series. Now, I'm open to this conversation. So if you guys think I'm wrong, let's talk about that. I don't, and I'd be curious what the Anti-Trekker says too. I don't think that the audience would watch anything that isn't either relatable to humans or is non-humans. Let me see. Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. Captain George, worth it. It's funny. Captain George hit me up on Twitter. Worth it at Lore Reloaded at Anti-Trekker. I love the joke so much. Well, I'm glad it was worth it to you, buddy. The Terror of Death. Essentially a few characters, thank you so much. Again, essentially a few characters, a few captain, lieutenant, diplomats, etc. And like Clone Wars, we see all sides of the conflict from different points of view, from the front lines to the home front. Here would be something interesting. And again, this could just be me. But have an event, like you said, during the Dominion War. Maybe the fall of Beta Z. And so you have the fall of Beta Z, and you have 3 seasons or whatever. Every season is from a different point of view. Now, I don't know if you could do this really well or not. But every one is from a different point of view. And so the first one might be the defenses of Beta Z, the militia. And for the first season or couple episodes, you see them fall. And then you see Beta Z resisting on the ground. Then you see it from the Dominion's point of view. Then you see it from the Fifth Fleet. That would be intriguing. I don't know that a lot of people like watching it the way I do, but I would love to see that. Jonathan Stevie would love to see a Federation civil war, maybe 50 years after Hobius, one crew going through the moral dilemmas of which side to choose. You know, how interesting would it be to see, what if there was a civil war over Cardassia joining the Federation? I sincerely feel like the Cardassia would ultimately join the Federation. There is no logical way out of that, in my opinion, right? And so the Cardassians join. Of course, the Cardassians join, and of course you see the Bajorans go crazy. But not just the Bajorans. What about the Starfleet captains? What about the people who served on Beta Z? All the people who were killed. And so now we have the Federation, who are supposed to be inclusive. They accept anybody, right? And then now they have to put their actions where their mouths are. And you got an interesting conversation then. 24 style show during the Dominion War, but not sticking completely to 1 hour per episode. 10 episodes can take place over a month, allowing you to delve into the characters and then rotate the next season. Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to my conversation beforehand, though. How far or how many stories can we tell? It has all the stories that can be told have been. A below decks thing could be interesting, like the Red Shirt book. TNG had the episode, but a Scrubs like the series set in Star Trek universe. What's up, Captain George? Welcome back, buddy. So kind of like Discovery did, where you don't have the captain as the major character. But how could you make that... could you make that interesting without keeping people in the know? One of the reasons you have command officers is so people are aware of what's going on, right? Could you continue to do that? Because I think people would have an issue, because if you're not on the bridge, you don't know a lot of what's going on, which is what the TNG episode was all about, looking at it from a different point of view, right? Raw 666. What of a Star Trek series set 100 to 200 years after TNG era that focuses on a more militaristic Federation that has explored the galaxy and stopped in favor of defense, leading a story of reigniting the exploration spark? Huh. And by the way, thank you so much again. If you guys want me to play any of the animations, I can. Like this.
Whoa, that's a genuinely shocking fact.
So we kind of go the Star Trek Online route. The Federation, after 200 years, is now this militaristic top dog. Let's say that the Romulans and the Klingon Empire still exist, but the Federation now dwarfs them. Again, Cardassia is probably a part of it. The Bajorans are probably a part of it. We're seeing, kind of like what we see in Voyager, the Federation moving towards and into the Delta Quadrant, and even maybe a presence in the Gamma Quadrant. And so you started out with a Federation that doesn't even look like what we saw the Federation was. Starfleet. So you have ships that really look more like yesterday's Enterprise. And so, for whatever reason, they have not had any kind of real threat in 50 to 100 years. And so now they're wanting to move back to be an exploration outfit. That could be interesting, especially if you consider in this 100 to 200 years timeline, the Federation has expanded so much that there would be entire civilizations, entire sectors, maybe even half and half, that always looked at Starfleet as a militarized Starfleet and not what it was beforehand. The real issue would be is how do you continue to tell that story? How do you make it dynamic and intriguing and not get stale? And I think stale. God, I hate being Southern. Stale. I don't think I can say that word right. How exactly would you go about doing that? And so I guess that's the question I'm going to read out to you guys now. How exactly would you go about doing that and keeping it fresh? What stories, when it comes to that, would you tell? Tale, stale. Post-Voyager Nemesis, in the aftermath of the Hobus, the Klingon attack the Romulans in the deep Beta Quadrant. UFP establishes Romulan protectorate for refugees in the areas of the border. That seems like that would lead to another Starfleet Federation or Starfleet Klingon war. The Axanar story would make a good Star Trek series. Just started out a year or so before the conflict, then cover the conflict. I would love to see Prelude to Axanar expanded on. I think that would be absolutely excellent. And I think it would be a great show, a great story. You know? I don't, and that's not to speak specifically about the back end of Prelude to Axanar, because I don't want to get into that necessarily. But I would love to see Prelude to Axanar, the ideas there, expanded. And that would have been a great series. I wish Discovery was that, honestly. I would be interested in like a medical drama set in the Star Trek universe, something like House. Yeah, I mean, here's my thing with that. That would take a lot of talking. Star Trek has always been about exploration. Has always been about science fiction and ships flying around. So to do something like House is I don't know. To do something like House would be not Star Trek. And I think you'd get the same pushback that you got on Discovery. Yeah, I think my editor doesn't like it because that means he'll do more work. Nate Watson helping out. Again, this is always appreciated. Thank you so much. What about a dramedy about the ship Starfleet using as a dumping ground for people who are incompetent or insane, but can't be fired for some reason? I think a lot of people would get angry at that, but it would be funny to see a Star Trek version of Orville. That would be, I don't know, Anti-Trekker, who's going live soon, but Anti-Trekker, what are your thoughts on a series that was basically like Orville? Because I think that could be fun. I don't know if you could get the audience. The audience is now so used to Trek being serious. But what are your thoughts? Vico Davis, our god, has left us. Indeed, the cat has left. At Lore Reloaded, maybe we can do a series based on another faction, like the Maquis, a group of colonists on a group of planets want independence, but it's not a full-blown civil war. Again, I don't know that this would be Trek, so I don't know that people would like it. But what if you did a Maquis series, starting from TNG and then leading up to their destruction by the Dominion, and just tell those stories? It would be interesting. And then you see how the Starfleet treats them and everything. I think that a lot of people wouldn't like it because it would definitely put Starfleet into a negative light. Because they drop the ball with the Maquis. Absolutely. Ross666, a possibility is superpower UPFP begin a debate and eventual expedition to explore other galaxies, seeing truly alien species as we follow crew as they figure out how to be explorers. That could be interesting. They definitely would. The thing about a different universe would be, and doing it now would mean you'd see truly different things. Truly, the budget wouldn't be as constrained. You know, an interesting story. Star Trek Borg, the game. Star Trek Borg, the game. What if you did a movie of that? If you haven't played Star Trek Borg, the game, it can't play on any computer these days, unfortunately. But if you go on YouTube, there's actually... you should be able to... It's basically the game, and you click on stuff, and you get to choose, and it goes back and forth. Someone put a lot of effort into that. How fun would that be to do the... And basically, for those who haven't played Star Trek Borg, basically you're a cadet, and it's the 24th century, and the Battle of Wolf 359 is about to happen. And so as a cadet, they're getting you off the ship because they're going to Wolf 359. Even though they didn't get the civilians off, but that's, again, another issue. So they're getting you off because of the Borg. You lost your father at another encounter with the Borg. And so, or maybe they're going to the battle of Sector 001, and you lost your father at Wolf 359. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Q shows up, and he says, hey, you're about to be shipped off. I tell you what, how about this? I'm going to take you back to see your father. And so Q takes you back to when the ship was supposed to be destroyed at the Battle of Wolf 359, because I think it was Wolf 359. You stop it from being destroyed, and then you go through this series. Like Q guides you through it. It's really a very interesting and fun game. You guys should look for it on YouTube. It's really fun. It was one of those when you know how it got really popular to do live action games where you can just pick and choose and things like that. Right. Admiral Alexander, my theories will be in Discord because apparently no one can read them, and I post them right before 40 other posts something. Admiral Alexander, if you'd like to put it up, I would be absolutely happy to read them. Or, Admiral Alexander, you can leave the stream. That works too. A starship gets sent back in the 500,000 years and arrives in a prehistoric Alpha Quadrant amidst an epic war between three godlike races. The Takan, the Shaddai, and the Proto-Bajorans. A starship gets sent back in time. Huh. Well, then they'd have to deal with the Temporal Prime Directive and try to still exist. So, I mean, yeah, that could definitely be interesting, I think. That could be... I could see that. What if we had a show that follows the original series era officer that's transported to... Yeah, a crossover would be interesting, and we saw that in yesterday's Enterprise. Or what could be as interesting is doing the reverse, kind of like what we saw in Deep Space Nine, where they go back in time, right? That would, yeah. Okay, so now Admiral Alexander, I'd be happy to listen to what you say, buddy. You're the one saying you have to go, but if you'd like to talk, let me know. Again, I have so many people that give that I can't see, so I'll go ahead and say this. I say this as much as I can, but with 106 people watching and 25% of them talking or not, my screen will pop up and I'll have stuff go by every 2 to 3 seconds. It's not huge and I can't see a lot of it. So there's a couple of ways that you can get it so I can see you. If you do @lore reloaded, @lore reloaded one word, or @lore space reloaded, it'll pop up in orange. And if I see that, I can probably talk to it. Another thing that I will attempt to do is I do attempt to read all of them, but that can be pretty hard. If you want to guarantee for me to see it, and I'm not saying that you have to do this, I'm not pushing people in this direction, but the way for me to specifically see it is to do a super chat, which I will definitely see. Now, I'm not saying you have to go that route. I'm just letting you know of ways for me to see it. So I apologize if you get mad about it. Not a lot I can do, though. I read what I can. What of a series that focuses on the Temporal Prime Directive of agents going back to ensure the timeline they want remain? Keyword remain, but not actual. A timeline... maybe Agent Daniels. I wouldn't mind a story with Agent Daniels. I didn't hate Agent Daniels, honestly. I think an expansion on his stuff would be intriguing to me. Yeah, I think Agent Daniels would be kind of fun. Bring the cat back; it'll help. 22 Steve 5150 is still in the past talking about the Borg the game Star Trek Borg. I remember that game. Almost every choice you make gets you killed, and Q clowns on you constantly. Yeah, he does help out a lot too. Q, I think, does excellent work. Generally, I think Q does excellent work. Yeah, I think that in that he really wants to help you. I think Q is written really well in that game. Let's see. There has to be a dark period before the Federation when the Earth was truly struggling, being united under one government. Probably the wars right before it became the United Earth. Again, a very interesting story to tell would be the Romulan Star Trek, the Romulan Wars, and I wish they'd expand on that because that's excellent. By the way, guys, Anti-Trekker has went live, so it's also getting towards the hour mark, so I'm probably going to end it pretty shortly, just because I got to get some sleep too, yo. Trial by Gunfire, hi, how you doing? But yeah, so any other ideas before we end this? In this story? As it were. A post-Dominion War political drama? Maybe. A Section 31 series would be good. They could have tech we haven't seen in the other series. Well, I'd be interested to see Section 31 have the phase cloak. I still think, personally, they have the phase cloak. What I meant was that a TOS-era officer is transported back to the era where they joined the TNG Starfleet while trying to adapt to the different Starfleet from what they knew. What would be interesting in that is that you would have the original series. The militarism bumping up against the next generation pacifism. That would be intriguing. All right, guys, I think we are going to end it here. Hey, thanks so much for coming by. This has been a lot of fun. I'll probably do this again since it's so popular. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out the Anti-Trekker. Type in Anti-Trekker in the search bar and go watch his. He does a pretty good show as well. But with that, thanks so much for coming. Don't forget, as I said, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.